Viewer discretion is advised. The following content may contain material that some viewers find disturbing or offensive. While we strive to create content that is informative and engaging, the topics discussed today touch upon sensitive subjects. We believe in open discussion and exploring complex themes, but we also understand that certain content can be challenging for some individuals. Your well-being is our priority. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, please feel free to click away. We encourage you to proceed with caution and take care of yourself. For those who choose to continue, thank you for joining us in this important conversation. We appreciate your viewership and encourage you to follow our channel for more thought-provoking content.
He rides with the flag on the back of his truck. Heartland thunder, never gave up. Boots in the dirt, eyes on the prize. He sees through the smoke and the media lies. Raised on faith in the Constitution, red-blooded pride, no substitution. They call him a rebel, they don't understand. He's just standing tall for the promised land. He's the MAGA man, born to stand, with the Bible in his left and the truth in his hand. They can mock, they can ban, but he won't kneel to the global plan. From the farms to the steel mills, he takes a stand. Yeah, he's the MAGA man. He don't trust the suits in D.C. halls. He answers to God, not to woke calls. Speaks his mind, don't play pretend. He'll fight like hell to the bitter end. He's seen the wars, the cost, the pain. Lost his job to a trade deal's gain, but he still holds that banner high. Stars and stripes till the day he dies. He's the MAGA man, born to stand, with the Bible in his left and the truth in his hand. They can mock, they can ban, but he won't kneel to the global plan. From the coal towns to the Texas sand. Yeah, he's the MAGA man. They tried to silence, tried to shame, erase his voice, rewrite his name. But you can't kill the spark inside of the working man with American pride. He's the MAGA man, born to stand, with a dream in his soul and a gun in his hand. They can scoff, they can slam, but he still prays for this great land. In every heart that won't be damned, you'll find the MAGA man. Help! Our nation under God still stands. That's the vow of the MAGA man. That's the vow of the MAGA man.
A breaking twist rocks America as Brian Cole Jr. is arrested for the January 6th pipe bombings after 5 years, raising more questions than answers. Cole, a developmentally delayed autistic man who still lives with his mother, becomes the unlikely face of a massive FBI case. His sudden confession emerges despite years of an alleged exhaustive FBI manhunt, leaving the public deeply skeptical. Whistleblower Kyle Seraphin, a former FBI agent, steps forward to expose alarming faults in the Bureau's investigation. Seraphin reveals that FBI released surveillance footage was intentionally downgraded to obscure key details. Capitol Police's counter-surveillance teams displayed stunning foresight, pinpointing the bomb sites with uncanny accuracy. These revelations ignite suspicion. Was crucial evidence manipulated to fit a predetermined narrative? As controversy swells, new records suggest Cole could not have been at the scene, unraveling the FBI's accusations. The public watches in disbelief as this supposed slam dunk case dissolves into a spectacle of official incompetence or something darker. Seraphin's whistleblowing points to evidence tampering and glaring inconsistencies, sparking outrage and calls for accountability. As journalists and citizens dig deeper, the foundations of the FBI's case appear increasingly vulnerable. Cole's circumstances and vulnerability come into sharper focus, complicating any notion of him as a criminal mastermind. Each new revelation feeds suspicions of a deeper cover-up, possibly orchestrated from within the so-called deep state.
We are finally able to make an arrest of an individual by the name of Brian Cole.
He had zero criminal history, saying that the government, when they were presenting, said that he was getting riled up online. He was all engaging in these kind of theories and things, and they said there's no evidence of that at all. No messages, no texts, no evidence of any radicalization from their perspective. And they had to come back out and, as I mentioned earlier, admit that and say he was a consumer of this media, not a poster.
An investigation spearheaded by the deputy director and the ADIC of our Washington field office brought in a new team of investigators and experts, re-examined every piece of evidence, sifted through all the data, something that the prior administration refused and failed to do.
He is a level 1 autistic man. He's got OCD. This explains all of the things that they're alleging, saying that the destruction of the cell phone evidence wasn't destruction of evidence. It was just an autistic man with OCD who resets his phone to the tune of 943 times.
What I think happened, this is Kyle Seraphin's full opinion. I believe the FBI identified Brian Cole, probably in that loop of like maybe 90, where they did some additional work. He was generally speaking in the area of, and then when they ran it down, they found out that he was not a good match because the pipe bomber route, it's roughly near where it says 1, 2, 3, 4 in a tight little cluster towards the center of the map. That's where the pipe bomber would have had to have been for the actual time that they say that the person was there. So there's a route of the actual bomber, and it's very, very small. You see it red and green. The number 1 is not inside sector number 1. The number 2 is not inside sector number 2, very clean, or I guess it's on the edge. 3 is right on the line, 4 and so on. So they have pings that are relatively close to where they should be, but they're not actually a slam dunk. This is not evidence. This is thin. This is like an indication to go do further information. Brian Cole Jr. was arrested under a complaint that was filed with the district court, the District of DC, and they arrested a guy out of Woodbridge, Virginia for the pipe bomber case, claimed that he was the one who did it. If you don't get that indictment, then you have to take it in front of a judge for a preliminary hearing.
This is really interesting. Apparently, DC is unique in that it is the only district where this can occur, where a Superior Court grand jury can be used in district court. Interesting that Boasberg's kind of floating around at the center of it all too.
They took every means, they filed all the means, they put all these motions out that said, hey, please, like, let's kick this down the line. We want to go to next year. We want to wait until we get in front of a grand jury. We don't want to have a preliminary hearing. And the defense, which is really aggressive, it's a new law firm that's out of Tennessee. They're former United States attorneys, and they're apparently very good, went out and said, no. We insist on having the preliminary hearing today, Tuesday, December the 30th. And so DOJ panicked and yesterday took Brian Cole Jr.'s case in front of a superior court, the lower court, in front of a grand jury, and got an indictment there.
You know, the prosecution was there. There was about 6 to 7 prosecutors sitting at that table. It was a little lopsided because he's sitting there with his one attorney, but that's obviously very standard. If you have the weight of the federal government against you, generally there's going to be 10 prosecutors, and if you're lucky, you could afford an attorney, or else you get a public defender. Right
now, you're seeing the house that Brian Cole Jr. lives in, and that's his vehicle. That's a blue Nissan Sentra 2017. This is the map of the cell phone pings and the towers that DOJ used, and now you're seeing what we believe is Brian Cole Jr.'s car driving at 8:04 It's driving while the pipe bomber is on foot over a mile away. And there's one other car that matches this description, and it's driven by a white person. We can't see who the driver of this is, but if that is Brian Cole Jr.'s car, then Brian Cole Jr. was driving while the pipe bomber was on foot dropping off the bombs, and it couldn't have been him.
Oh, this is a real Perry Mason moment. If I sound a little speechless here, this is so devastating.
So very simply, between the hours of 7:34 p.m. and 8:18 p.m. on January 5th, 2021, the pipe bomber is on foot, walking around with the hood on. That's who the FBI and the DOJ allege Brian Cole Jr. is, that figure. But the problem is a car that matches Brian Cole's car is in motion in Washington, D.C., over a mile away and driving in a route that's at least 7 minutes away and could not be him. There's no way outside of teleportation or some sort of magical time warp that Brian Cole Jr. is both driving his car and walking around at that time. So at the very least, it shows that there would have to be another person involved. More likely than not, what it shows is they've got the wrong guy altogether, which is what I believe for quite a while now.
The party is underway here in Doral, Florida, outside of the El Aripazo restaurant, gas station. A large Venezuelan community has showed up. A lot of flags, cars are honking. The excitement is very high. People are claiming freedom for Venezuela and praise to the Trump administration for their actions this morning in taking capture Maduro. ¿Qué opinas sobre la noticia de la captura de Maduro?
Bueno, aquí ahorita estoy viendo al presidente Trump.
¿Al presidente Trump?
Sí, lo estoy viendo en vivo. Desde hace 15 minutos estoy esperando este comunicado. Gracias al presidente Trump, gracias a Marco Rubio por su gran apoyo a Venezuela y que Venezuela sea libre y que todos los venezolanos podamos volver a nuestro país lo más pronto posible.
¿Qué opinas sobre la noticia de la captura de Maduro?
Es un éxito de Trump. Le agradecemos a Trump porque va a votar el comunismo de Centroamérica y Suramérica.
Muchas gracias, muchas gracias, muchas gracias.
Bandera, bandera, bandera.
¿Qué sobre de la noticia?
Felicidad,
¿Sí?
Pura felicidad, Venezuela libre.
Muchas gracias.
Estamos felices de tantos años, 26 años de corrupción, de asesinato, de dictadura. Estamos felices. Gracias, Trump.
Gracias, adiós. Adiós, sí. ¿Qué opinas de la noticia?
20 years, my husband, he's free.
Oh, in English, great.
My husband,
She's American, but in Venezuela.
Oh, okay.
Gringa, mi esposo de Venezuela para 20 años. Aquí, looking for freedom.
Bueno. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And yes, are they going to now have Maduro expose Pelosi and the Democrats and the Clintons and the Bushes for the drug dealing they've been involved in? I wouldn't hold your breath with the prosecutors, but definitely Trump is ending the U.S. sanctioning and laundering the money and supporting it and the election fraud. Because it's not Venezuela and China running it. It's the CIA deep state through China, through Venezuela and Cuba doing it. So Cuba's in deep trouble. Mexico and Scheinbaum, its operations in trouble. Their mothership, Venezuela, that had all this incredible budget and all this incredible money, not for its people, but for control, that's gone. And so Trump's leaving this current government in there. They'd already had Maduro about to go and put in this new puppet. He's like, we're not going to have your puppet. We're going to come in, stabilize it, crank up your production again, turn your standard of living back on, and we're going to fix this. And it's going to work because they have so much wealth. So this is a big deal, folks. On this day, today.
States need to take over the Venezuelan oil industry. Well, we don't need to. First of all, let me go back up. We don't need Venezuela's oil. We have plenty of oil in the United States. What we're not going to allow is for the oil industry in Venezuela to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. You have to understand, why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
Have specific oil companies?
We also want to see that oil and the proceeds from it. Hold on. We want to see the oil proceeds of that country benefit the people of Venezuela. Why have 8 million people left Venezuela? 8 million, the single largest mass migration probably in modern history, left Venezuela in 2014 because all the wealth of that country was stolen to the benefit of Maduro and his cronies in the regime, but not to the benefit of people of Venezuela. You know how destabilizing 8 million migrants is? The number one fear that Brazil has, that Colombia has, that all these countries in the region have about what's happening in Venezuela and our involvement is they're afraid of another mass migration event. That's what they fear. This is deeply destabilizing stuff. It's not going to continue to happen. They are not going to come from outside of our hemisphere, destabilize our region in our own backyard, and us have to pay the price for it. Not under President Trump.
Let's talk big picture.
You don't invade and abduct leaders to defend a strong currency. You do it when it's dying. I'm sure you've seen the headlines. Chaos in the markets. Leaders disappearing. What if it's not random? What if it's the last gasp of a failing money system? When a currency crashes, power moves fast. Capital flight, hyperinflation, social unrest. Central banks respond by printing, tightening, or reinventing money itself. CBDCs are already being tested in 100+ countries, and global reserves are shifting toward digital-friendly assets. Could a universal digital currency be the stabilizer, or the control mechanism that some actors have wanted all along? The fall could get messy, or it could fast-track a new monetary order. Either way, watch the currency indicators. They tell the real story.
Donald Trump strikes Venezuela to take out a dictator. Where have I seen this before?
We're giving them full opportunity to do it the easy way. And when it doesn't work, we'll do it the hard way.
If we can do things the easy way, that's fine. And if we have to do it the hard way, that's fine too.
Chemical weapons is a threat to the United States.
Fentanyl poses a chemical weapons threat to the United States.
Al-Qaeda terrorists inside Iraq.
Al-Qaeda of our hemisphere.
We can get rid of Saddam. It could really begin to transform the region.
There's an opportunity to transform the entire region.
Bringing freedom and democracy.
Democracy and freedom
can serve as a beacon of hope.
Shock and awe.
But wait a minute. Didn't Trump promise that he wouldn't engage in the regime change of other nations? Yeah, he most certainly did.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
Our current strategy of nation building and regime change is a proven absolute failure.
We will break the cycle of regime change. We must abandon the failed policy of nation building and regime change that Hillary Clinton pushed in Iraq, in Libya, in Egypt, and in Syria. Regime change takes chaos.
You've seen how that works over the last 20 years. That hasn't been too good.
Not a reckless interventionist globalism.
We're getting out of the nation building business.
We're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place.
Are you really that surprised, though? They lied about Pearl Harbor. They lied about WMDs in Iraq. They lied about Gaddafi in Libya. They lied about the Gulf of Tonkin. They lied about the Iran-Contra affair. They lied about chemical weapons in Syria. But sure, this time it's definitely about drugs. So what is this really all about? What's really going on here? Well, I'm going to break it all down for you right now. The US just launched a full-scale military assault on Venezuela overnight. They bombed Caracas and captured Nicolás Maduro and his wife in a pre-dawn raid. The most brazen act of American imperialism since Iraq. And I'm going to tell you the truth that they don't want you to hear. That this isn't about drugs. This isn't about terrorism. This isn't even about so-called democracy. This was a desperate, panic-stricken fight for the survival of the dying US dollar, the petrodollar system that has kept America on top for the last 50 years. And Venezuela had the potential to administer the death blow. Here's a visualization of all of the world's oil reserves by country, and as you can see, Venezuela comes out on top in the #1 position with an estimated 303 billion barrels of oil reserves. That's the largest reserves on Earth. They have more than Saudi Arabia, 20% of the world's supply. But Maduro wasn't playing the dollar game anymore. And that's the part that really matters. Venezuela was actively ditching the dollar. Back in 2018, they announced that they had freed themselves from the dollar. They started selling that massive oil stash in Chinese yuan and euros and rubles, anything but US dollars. They were pushing hard to join the BRICS nations, building direct payment channels with China that completely bypassed the SWIFT system. And with all that oil, they could fund this de-dollarization push for decades. That's not just a threat. That's a direct assault on the foundation of American power. So why does any of this matter? Because the entire US financial system is built on one fragile pillar, the petrodollar. In 1974, Henry Kissinger struck a deal with the Saudis. All global oil sales must be priced in US dollars. In return, America would provide military muscle. That agreement created fake demand for dollars everywhere. Every country needed dollars to buy oil. You challenge that? And watch what happens. There's a clear pattern here, my friends. Leaders who dare to mess with it don't last long. Just look at the pattern. Saddam Hussein switched to euros for buying oil and he gets invaded and killed. Gaddafi pushed a gold dinar and he gets bombed and brutalized with Libya in chaos. And now Maduro, with 5 times their oil combined, who was partnering with the de-dollarization axis, China, Russia, and Iran all challenged the dollar, and the bombs fall. This isn't random, guys. If you challenge the petrodollar, you get regime changed every single time. But here's the deeper crisis that no one is talking about. The petrodollar is already on life support. Russia's been selling oil in rubles and the yuan since the Ukraine mess. Saudi Arabia is openly talking about yuan settlements. Iran's been off the dollar for years. China's CIPS system hooks up over 4,800 banks in 185 countries with no SWIFT needed. The BRICS nations are rolling out payment systems that sideline the dollar completely. If Venezuela joins the BRICS nations with those 303 billion barrels of oil, it'll supercharge the whole thing. That's why this invasion is happening now. Not because of drugs. Venezuela plays a very minor role in the transshipment of cocaine to the United States. It's not about terrorism. There's zero proof that Maduro is running a terror group. And it's not about democracy. The US backs Saudi Arabia with 0 elections. It's all about clinging to that 50-year-old deal that allows America to just print cash while the world toils. And the fallout is already exploding. Russia, China, and Iran are all calling this armed aggression. China is furious because Venezuela was their top oil supplier, which means billions have been lost overnight. The BRICS nations just watched one of their hopefuls get bombed for ditching the dollar. So the message to the global south is clear. If you trade outside of dollars, we're going to come for you. Every country now knows this. The empire is enforcing its currency with bombs and raids. So the only safety for them now is to build alternatives even faster, to align with BRICS, and to hoard gold, and to trade local. When everyone sees the petrodollar propped up by midnight airstrikes and raids, that means that America just exposed its weakness. You don't invade and abduct leaders to defend a strong currency. You do it when it's dying. So the question now is, how ugly is this fall going to get? And are we soon going to see a global CBDC, a central bank digital currency, to be the answer to all this chaos? And is that what they wanted all along? That's what it looks like to me, folks. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And guys, I've been telling you to get your money out of dollars and into gold and silver for years. In fact, in 2023 and 2024, I put out dozens of videos suggesting that you make this move. And now just look at what happened in 2025. Gold went up by 70%. And silver went up by 145%. Congratulations to everyone who made the move. And this is not about to slow down anytime soon. I mean, just look at what's happening in the world. So right now, if you go to pressfortruth.ca/gold, you're going to find the guys who have been working with the suppliers who I've been dealing with for over a decade now. Visit pressfortruth.ca/gold and protect your wealth with precious metals, guys. You can find the link to pressfortruth.ca/gold in the description. These guys not only have the best hookups for physical gold and silver, but they also offer the best vaulting services I've ever come across. So if you're interested in investing in gold or silver, it's definitely not too late. In fact, I think now is a great time to get involved, as 2026 is shaping up to prove that 2025 was just the beginning. Share this story, guys, before they bury it. Let the truth explode louder than those bombs. And stay vigilant, my friends, because the real war for the future of money itself has just gone hot. Thanks for watching, guys. Please click that thumbs up button before you share the video. It really does help with the algorithms that are designed to stop this type of information from being seen. Don't forget to visit pressfortruth.ca/gold. You can find a link for that in the description. And stay tuned, my friends. I'm going to have more video reports coming soon, God willing. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth.
Hey, what's going on? Now, I know the first video is more about the J6 pipe bomber case, which is total BS, in my opinion, and that guy should be let go, but I think he'd be found not guilty because, you know, in my opinion, he really didn't do it. But I digress from that for right now. I'll talk more about that later. But the main thing I want to talk about is Venezuela, basically. How Trump, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, sent the Green Berets, basically, into Venezuela itself, at Maduro's, I guess, mansion, you know, to arrest him, basically. It took him, removed him from his house, brought him aboard an aircraft carrier, I think the USS Nimitz, what I understand. And last I heard, you know, he's in New York City right now, basically. I saw the video of him taking the perp walk, basically, being handcuffed with, you know, DEA agents escorting him, basically. Now, if I understand, you know, this is a joint military and DOJ operation, basically, okay? They have him charged with weapons possession. Like, what the hell? Never mind. And drug trafficking and other charge, you know. Well, basically with the weapons charges is like he had machine guns. Like, I'm thinking, okay, this man's a head of state, president of the country. So obviously he'll need some high-powered rifles and some firearms basically to protect himself. So why in the hell are you charging him with that for? And, you know, drug trafficking charges I can see, and other charges I could probably see as well. Okay? Now, one thing I'll make perfectly clear. I do not like Maduro, okay? He is a criminal. He's very corrupt. Basically, I have no sympathy for the man, and he deserves what he gets, basically, as far as I'm concerned. And I know millions of Venezuelans will agree with me on that right there. So, but with that being said, you know, it was this a legal maneuver for Trump really to do, you know? Just go around and taking out, you know, They deem corrupt leaders go in there in their countries of origin, basically. You understand what I'm saying? Go to their residence, take them, arrest them, and bring them back here to the United States. Because Trump's saying Colombia is next. I'm like, okay, you know. And you got to realize one of Trump's main campaign promises was no foreign wars, no regime change, no interventions, none of that BS. Look what we're doing now. Now, I have to give Trump maybe the benefit of the doubt. There may be a reason behind he's doing this, a.k.a. trying to protect the petrodollar, because Maduro basically, has been, I guess, selling his oil basically on the Chinese yen and a few other foreign currencies, everything but the petrodollar. And that brings the United States to a very unstable condition, basically. Let's put it that way. So that's kind of a threat to the United States on that there alone. That possession, but drug trafficking, I'm pretty sure, and other charges too. But I think one of the main reasons is protect the petrodollar, basically. The same reason why we went to Iraq in the first place. And much I hate to say it, but the truth be truth, I'm beholden to the truth, is like this, okay? I remember in the early 2000s, I'm pretty sure a lot of you watching this video remember that as well, that the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq was a total lie. The only reason why we went to war in Iraq was to protect the petrodollar. That was it right there. The weapons of mass destruction was just a cover story. And remember, when we went to Iraq, 9/11 was only like a few years off, basically. So majority of us, including me, was war hungry, basically, and wanted to clean house. That's exactly what we did right there. But a lot of us evolved from that. I said a lot of us, not quite all of us, but a lot of us did, but not quite all of us, but a lot of us did evolve from that right there. So, I have to take everything with a grain of salt. Everybody's claiming this like take control of Venezuela's oil, basically. We're control the oil in there. Okay, at least we get something out of it because, in the Iraq war, we lost all the fucking oil thanks to Bush and Obama's stupidity, basically. So, with Trump, I guess we're going to control the oil and make some money off of them oil. Okay, very well. And, Venezuela has a lot of natural resources that we would love to have there. So, there is a lot of reasons why Trump is doing this. I kind of want to give a benefit of the doubt on this, and it is kind of like protecting our sovereignty. This is in our hemisphere, in our backyard. Venezuela is not that far away. Matter of fact, you could literally drive to Venezuela if you really wanted to. I'm not advising you would. You shouldn't do that. But you could, though. You could. We're not that far away. You could probably take an airplane and probably be there in 4 or 5 hours, I imagine. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, it's kind of like this, too, Is like, was this really necessary? Or we're protecting our own best interests, basically, by doing this. By going to Venezuela, basically, and take control of it like Trump said he's going to do. But Trump did promise we'll do no more nation building, basically. So what we're going to do here in Venezuela right now. Now, yes, I see all the people happy and cheering. All the Venezuela themselves cheering for the fact that Venezuela is gone. I mean, I'm sorry. They're all cheering for the fact that Maduro is gone. They're cheering, they're happy. There's a lot of Venezuelans here in the United States as well is cheering, is very happy for the fact that Trump is gone. And we got a lot of Venezuelans here in Indiana, believe it or not. And I'm pretty sure a lot of them are cheering that Maduro is gone. Okay, a lot of them are. A lot of them are not. Maduro in Venezuela especially, I imagine, still has a lot of support among his population. He probably has many Venezuelans in Venezuela himself that still is very supports Maduro. And I'm pretty sure they're not happy about this at all. And you have the vice president, of Venezuela, basically, very angry about this and said it was a Zionist operation, basically. She's trying to play victim to Israel and to the Zionist base. That's what she's trying to do, And Trump basically saying that she better follow the rules or she's next. Is Trump trying to run the whole Western Hemisphere with an iron fist? Let me repeat that again. Is Trump trying to run the Western Hemisphere with an iron fist, basically, the fist of power, as he's trying to do, basically, trying to get all the nations, all the Americas, North, Central, and South America to fall in line and to obey Trump? Is that what he's trying to do? Is telling all those countries in Central and South America, like, you better behave yourself or you're next. Rule with a clash iron fist, like a clash a clenched iron fist, basically. Is that what you're trying to do? Mexico the same way. As far as drug trafficking is concerned, I am almost positive a lot of that shit's coming through Mexico. So why don't Trump invade Mexico, basically? And why don't Trump basically go and arrest the Mexican president right there and see what happens with that, basically? If you can start doing stuff like that. But like I said, he says Colombia's next, basically. So is Colombia's next? Is Mexico's right around the corner? Who else is next? Is he telling all the leaders in Central and South America to play ball? Or he's going to start arresting them, Like I said, the iron fist, the fist of power, which Trump is using right now. And we still have the world's most powerful military at our arsenal right now that we can use, and some of the best trained special forces probably in the world, aka Delta Force, the Green Berets, Navy SEALs, the Air Force, I think that's commandos, So yeah, we have like a strong special forces units all across in the United States, basically, that can take very dangerous operations. So let's see where this leads to right here, okay? I'm on the fence with this right now. I'm still trying to give Trump the benefit of the doubt. I don't know how long I can do it, but I'm still in there. I'm still sort of on the Trump train right now. But we'll see what happens, okay? And check out Mike Adams' video message for this one, He does he makes some very good points. And a lot of stuff he say in this video, basically, he's not wrong. He made good points, I may not like I may kind of like not like what he's saying, but then again, I can't really disagree with what he's saying either, because what he's saying is not wrong. I'm trying to give you both sides here on this: the good about going in Venezuela and the bad about going to Venezuela. The good points about taking out Maduro, and the bad points about taking out Maduro. And yes, we could create another power vacuum in South America, like we did in the Middle East with Iraq, basically. Exactly what we could do right here, with a lot of guerrilla units, basically doing like an uprising, basically, have like a little civil war in Venezuela that we'll have to get involved in, basically. Okay, but please check out the Mike Adams video. All right, peace out, bye bye, see you later, peace, bye bye.
Breaking news from Washington, D.C. on January 3rd, 2026, shakes the political landscape and global stage alike. President Trump's commitment to national security stands undisputed, as recent events reveal high-stakes intrigue within America's corridors of power. The Department of National Intelligence, led by Director Tulsi Gabbard, uncovers startling evidence from classified CIA intelligence. A courageous whistleblower steps forward, risking everything to ensure the truth reaches the public through CBS News. Sensitive documents come to light, implicating Democratic leadership in a covert scheme to subvert a military operation overseas. Investigators track the leak back to the office of House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, unmasking those at the center of the plot. Their plan: warn Venezuelan dictator Nicolás Maduro of an impending U.S. capture mission to undermine the operation. But fate intervenes. The warning arrives mere moments too late for Maduro and his confidants. At that critical moment, Maduro finds himself already in the firm custody of U.S. forces, spirits lifted from Venezuelan soil by military helicopter. The flawless execution of the capture underscores the operational excellence of America's armed forces and intelligence community. President Trump's choice of Tulsi Gabbard to lead the DNI proves instrumental in bringing this high-level subterfuge to light. The administration's swift response demonstrates an ability to neutralize threats, both international and domestic, with precision. Political fault lines deepen, but one truth emerges: vigilance and resolve remain America's first and strongest line of defense. Americans watch as this story unfolds, reminded of the ongoing battle to protect the nation's interests at every level, home and abroad.
If you're Venezuelan, this hits different. Freedom or chaos? If you're watching from abroad, this could reshape geopolitics fast. Hold the celebrations. This is a beginning, not a finish line. A US-led operation ousted Nicolás Maduro, ending a decade of cronyism, shortages, and exile. The upside, a chance for free elections, economic aid, and lives rebuilt. The downside, power vacuums, armed groups, and global legal backlash that could spark instability. Regions are split. Some celebrate, others condemn. The UN is convening. Success hinges on inclusive governance, protection for civilians, and clear international backing. This moment is fragile. Big promise, big risk. Stay tuned. Venezuela's next chapter is just beginning.
All right, welcome to this analysis of where we are globally, geopolitically, following Trump's invasion of Venezuela and the kidnapping of its president, Maduro, who, let's be clear, Maduro is no doubt a bad guy, so to speak. Probably one of the worst criminals in existence, at least alive today. Because, well, that's how you get to be the president of Venezuela. A very corrupt country, but just one among many corrupt countries. I would say most of Europe is corrupt. Most of the world is corrupt. Our own country suffers from all kinds of corruption as well. In any case, Trump has ordered the invasion, the killing of people necessary to kidnap Maduro and to bring him to the United States, where he is facing criminal charges. So in other words, the United States accused the leader of another nation of some crimes. One of those, by the way, is possessing machine guns. Right. So did you know that it's illegal? That the U.S. considers it illegal for the leader of another country to have a machine gun. And if we think they have a machine gun, we can go kidnap them. Did you know that? Yeah, that's crazy. That's insane. Because, of course, the U.S. has no jurisdiction to enforce machine gun laws anywhere else around the world. In fact, the U.S. has no legal jurisdiction whatsoever over Venezuela. And the fact that the Venezuelan leader is indicted in a court in New York has no legal standing whatsoever, not anywhere in the world, and certainly not in Venezuela. And that's why this is really an issue of the rule of law. It's not a question of whether Maduro is a, quote, bad guy. Because, everybody's a bad guy. Every leader is a bad guy. And if we're going to live in a world where one nation can just say, well, we don't like this bad guy of this nation, and we're just going to go kidnap him, well, then what does that mean for our world? What does that mean for the rule of law? Does that mean that if China thinks that Trump has violated Chinese laws, that China can invade the United States to kidnap Trump and bring him to Beijing to face Chinese justice? Because that's what Trump just said, essentially. Trump thinks that's perfectly acceptable. Or if Russia believes that Trump is violating some law, or let's make it easier. Let's say that Russia says that Zelensky is violating the law. Then does Trump support Russia invading Kiev and kidnapping Zelensky and taking him back to Moscow to face trial in Russia? Oh, imagine the outcry from the Trump administration over something like that, huh? Yeah, all the Republicans would be screaming about violations of the rule of law. But when we do it, it's perfectly okay. See, that's the hypocrisy in all of this. And that's the disgusting part, is that the Trump administration and his supporters have no recognition of the Constitution or the rule of law. And no, Article 2 does not give the president the right to go in and kidnap a foreign leader without consulting Congress first. No such right exists. It's a blatant violation of the Constitution. So all those Republicans who were claiming, oh, we support the Constitution, if they're not speaking out against this now, they're just liars. They don't support the Constitution at all. And that's my concern in all of this. Although there's a silver lining in this invasion of Venezuela, and it could be that maybe some Americans would stop saying Venezuela, and maybe they would learn how to pronounce the country name correctly, because it is, of course, Venezuela. So who knows? Maybe if people hear it enough, they will correct their pronunciation. And to those people who keep saying Venezuela, I ask, have you looked at the word? Have you noticed letters in a specific sequence, because that's what words are? I'm kidding. I give people a hard time for mispronunciations and so on. Don't get me started on safety deposit boxes, because there's no such thing. There is no such thing. They don't exist. There's no such thing as a safety deposit box. It's a safe deposit box, but never mind. A safety deposit box would be a box where you place safety gear, such as like helmets and reflective vests, that or flashlights and such. That would be a safety deposit box. And that's not what people are referring to when they say that term. So anyway, back to Venezuela. I guess we'll just make up all our own names for all the South American countries. Instead of Colombia, it will be Colombia or something. I don't know, whatever. Colombia. Okay. Whatever you want. Colombia is next, according to Trump. He says that the president of Colombia is going to be taught a lesson soon. And so we now have Emperor Trump on a crusade across South America to find out how many countries he can invade, how many leaders he can kidnap, how many people he can kill along the way in order to control South America. And yes, it's lawless. Yes, it's completely, outside the Constitution. It's outside of international law, etc. But Trump's doing it because he can. And so once again, America proves itself to be the international bully. We're going to invade your country because we can. We don't care about the rule of law. You can't do it to us, but we're going to do it to you. But let's look at the arguments of, is it necessary? Because there's, of course, an argument that the means justify the ends. That's the argument among Trump supporters right now. Well, we had to do it because, of the following reasons. Either one, we need to steal Venezuela's oil supply. Why? Because, the U.S. Treasury is trillions in the hole, and the Fed can't just keep printing forever without destroying the value of the currency. And we need to backstop treasuries with some real hard assets. And, Venezuela's got tens of trillions of dollars in oil deposits. So what we're going to do, at least this is one of the theories. So what we're going to do, according to this theory, is we're going to seize Venezuela's oil resources. Just rape and pillage as usual. And then we're going to use that as assets to pledge against treasuries that will sell to the rest of the world. So we'll be able to sell treasuries at a lower yield rate to refinance the U.S. debt all over the world by having those treasuries partially backed by oil. Not our oil, Venezuelan oil that we stole. I mean, we're already stealing oil from Venezuelan tankers, or that is, tankers of other nations that are leaving Venezuela with oil. And you already heard, like Pam Bondi and others say, well, that's sanctioned oil, and thus we're going to take it. You heard Trump in interviews saying, well, we're just going to keep it. We're going to seize the oil and keep it. Yeah, there's a word for that. It's called piracy on the high seas, by the way. And there's no such thing as sanctioned oil. There's only oil. There's different qualities and grades of oil, but there's no such thing as sanctioned oil. That's a made-up concept that's pushed out there by the United States of America to justify stealing other people's oil. But see, before the U.S. takes another illegal action, it always justifies it. So before stealing Venezuela's oil, they'll say, well, we sanctioned it. And here, you see this piece of paper? This piece of paper says it's sanctioned oil, and thus we have the right to steal it. or before they go kidnap Maduro, they have him indicted and they say, see, we have this piece of paper. This is an indictment. You know, this is the kind of garbage that King George used to do to the American colonials back before 1776. It was like, well, the writ of whatever bullshit, the writ of bullshit says that you have to pay taxes even though you have no voice in Parliament. Yeah? Oh, the king has issued another writ of bullshit. That's the same thing that Trump is doing in Bondi. Same thing. Just documents to justify their illegal actions, which are really acts of war. I mean, let's be honest. Invading a foreign nation is an act of war. Regardless of what piece of paper you think you have, it's still an act of war. So, here we go. America starting more wars. But seizure of oil is just one of the theories. There's another theory. Oh, by the way, this has nothing to do with drugs. Nothing to do with drugs. That's just the cover story. Everybody with a brain knows that the drugs are going to continue to flow because, of course, that's what funds the CIA. Certain protected drug cartels get passage and they pay a percentage to the CIA. I mean, come on. It's 2026, all right? Let's not be children and pretend that, we're going to stop the drug trade. No. No such thing. The drug trade funds black ops. Always has. All right? So grow up, everybody, right? I mean, that's what I would say. I'm not saying that to you. That's what I would say to people who don't know. It's like, grow up. Come on. It's 2026. But what about rare earths? Well, does Venezuela have rare earths? Yeah, I mean, they're everywhere, actually. It's not a question of where are they. It's a question of refining them. Who's got the refining capabilities or even the tolerance for all the toxic chemicals and the waste products, the environmental impact? And as far as I know, Venezuela doesn't have rare earth refining capabilities of any note. So it's not a question of rare earths, is it? Again, China's got the predominant refining capabilities there. The U.S. is building out some capabilities, but they are at least a decade behind China, probably more like 15 or 20 years behind. And Venezuela is not a rare earth refining hub by any stretch. Okay, so what else? If it's not about the oil, what is it about? Well, Patrick Byrne, when I did an interview with him, he said that this is about election fraud, that Venezuela runs the black box voting machines that rig elections in the United States. And he said that's the main reason that Trump is going after Maduro, at least one reason among many. And he may very well be correct with that. It's true that one of the black box voting companies is based out of Venezuela. And it is true that our elections are being rigged again and again and again because of black box voting. And it's true that the Democrats, of course, work with that whole ecosystem to cheat and to give themselves more seats in the House and more seats in the Senate, etc. So you could argue that the kidnapping of Maduro and essentially the overthrow of Venezuela was necessary to protect America's election integrity. And maybe that's absolutely true. Could be. But if so, why doesn't Trump just tell us that? Why doesn't he just say, well, hey, our elections have been rigged. I mean, we know the 2020 election was stolen from Trump. I mean, that's just blatantly obvious. So it's all been rigged, and it's been going on, especially in the midterms. The Democrats in California and other places, they rig everything. That's how they get so many seats. It's all rigged. And if Trump were to just level with the American people, hey, the vote rigging's coming out of Venezuela, and we got to stop that to protect our election integrity. We need to go kidnap this guy and overthrow his country. I think actually more people would buy that than the current excuse of we have to stop drugs, because it's not going to stop drugs. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that most of the drugs coming across the border don't come out of Venezuela. They come from other countries, and they involve Mexico, and they involve Colombia, among others, but Venezuela is not the number one source of illegal drugs. So that's just a story. But if that theory is true, it's interesting. This may have just given the GOP a chance to maintain control in the midterms. See, the GOP has really been abandoning their support base, and you see it all over. You see people's reactions, and also people are dealing with very high inflation, high costs of living, a lot of job losses and job replacements, some of it due to AI, but a lot of it due to just economic decline. And many people who voted for Trump are very unhappy with Trump at this point. But people also despise the Democrats. The Democrats are widely hated because of all their DEI woke nonsense and all their... they hate America. They hate the Constitution. Now, Trump just ignores the Constitution, but the Democrats actually hate it and want to destroy it. Well, I guess so do the Israeli influencers of the Trump administration. They're talking about destroying the First Amendment now because they can't allow speech that hurts people's feelings or whatever. Yeah, it's getting insane. But the Democrats are widely reviled, and the only way for the Democrats to win, or at least to be certain of their win, would be to cheat, which is what they always do. And they need control of the voting machines in order to cheat. Although I would argue that a lot of the cheating is just done by ballot stuffing, and it doesn't matter who's controlling the voting machines. It's a ballot stuffing operation. They're just rerunning the same ballots over and over again. Or they're using mail-in ballots. They just mail out 10 million ballots all over the place, and then they have their mules, fill them out, round them up, bring them in, stuff them in, and they can cheat that way. Of course, Democrats are going to continue to cheat in every way possible. But if Trump takes away from them this one way of cheating, the black box voting, it might give the GOP a chance, even though the popularity of the GOP is plummeting. There's no other way to say it. Because, number one, where are the arrests? Trump's been in power almost a year. Where are the arrests of the traitors? Where are the real Epstein files? Huh? How come Fauci is still walking free? And Mayorkas and so many other people? What's the deal with that? So Trump hasn't been able to keep his promises about going after these criminals. And, if anything, he's now part of the cover-up of the Epstein files, is what it looks like. So, yeah, people are very unhappy about that. Understandably so. And as a result, the GOP is facing an election bloodbath come this November. That's going to be wild. But getting back to Venezuela, what else? What are the other reasons why Trump might want to violate the Constitution and violate international law and aggressively attack, invade, and control Venezuela? Well, it's because of what my friend Michael Yan talks about, routes and resources. See, Venezuela is very close geographically, or close enough, to the Gulf of Mexico to be able to present a threat to ships moving in and out of the Gulf of Mexico carrying things like liquid natural gas, LNG, or oil. Now, see, you got to back up to really understand the greater context in all of this. The United States blew up the Nord Stream pipelines in order to cut off Europe from Russian gas and to force Europe to purchase LNG from the United States. And that was to the benefit of some very wealthy people and companies that export natural gas. And a lot of that goes through ports on the southern coast, the Gulf Coast. And then those ships have to make their way, obviously, out of the Gulf to head over to Europe or wherever their destination may be. Well, during that transit, they can be threatened by land-based missiles from Venezuela. And Venezuela is rumored to be receiving missile technology from Russia and possibly from China. And of course, Russian missile technology is very, very capable. Russia has influenced the Iranian missiles that were devastating to Israel over the last summer. And clearly, missile technology has reached a point today where it's no longer unusual for land-based missiles to have a range of a couple thousand kilometers. So that easily puts them within striking distance of the routes of ships coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. Well, because geopolitically the world is bifurcating, so splitting into Eastern versus Western hemispheres. And this is true for supply chains and also energy supplies. And this was all instigated by the West, by the way, cutting off Russia from the SWIFT system, economic sanctions against Russia and Iran and other countries, and also the threat of tariffs and so on against China. So there's this splitting of the world. And as part of this split, the Western hemisphere, dominated by the United States, has to protect its own energy resources and energy routes because, well, the West isn't going to be able to get energy from Russia. And Europe, for example, is even passing laws to make it illegal to purchase energy from Russia. I think one big law for the EU kicks in about 1 year from now, actually, that would outlaw energy purchases from Russia. You know, it's a suicide cult, of course, running the EU, but that's what they want. They want to starve and freeze to death in the coming winters, and so they cut themselves off from Russian energy, which is cheap and abundant. And then they lock up their own energy supplies as well, you know, to appease the climate lunatics. And so, yeah, they're all going to starve and freeze, and they're going to say, aren't we good for the planet? No, you're dead, actually, you know. Maybe, no, I'm not going to go there. Maybe we can compost you. That could be good for, you know, the garden or something, maybe. You know, to the European leaders, I would say that. Maybe after you freeze yourself to death, we could compost you. That's green, you know, recycling, composting, yeah. So there's something else too, and that is silver and other critical resources, critical minerals. You know, Trump added silver to the critical resources list. And a lot of silver comes out of South America. And so being able to assert control over the shipping lanes or the transportation lanes of the entire region, that's really critical for America's interests. And they don't want China mucking around with the Panama Canal, for example, even though China has ports on the north side of the Panama Canal. I think it's the north side. It runs north-south mostly, by the way. China's got its own, you know, shipyards and things, or port there for the ships. And Trump wants to have total American dominance of the Western Hemisphere, all the way from almost the North Pole with Greenland, all the way to the southern tip of South America. That's the new strategy, is let's dominate the Western Hemisphere. And it's actually, you know, it's the new Monroe Doctrine. It's not a bad strategy if you're trying to sort of protect yourself from the new globalism, the new multipolar world where China and Russia are increasingly powerful, especially China with its naval shipyard capabilities and its global trade capabilities, its technology, etc. So Trump is kind of sort of building a moat, a geopolitical moat around America, and saying we're going to focus on the Western Hemisphere, which means we got to invade and control Venezuela. Could be a similar thing in mind for Cuba. That could be interesting. Colombia and any other country in Central or South America that doesn't play ball, including Mexico, by the way. We could be militarily invading Mexico any month now, and possibly, I mean, why not kidnap the president of Mexico too? Because, you know, she's fair game, I guess. If we could just kidnap any president we want, let's kidnap the president of Mexico, which would be like kidnapping the drug cartel warlord king or queen in this case, because the president of Mexico is always run by the drug cartels. You know, if Trump really wanted to go after the drug cartels, he would go after Mexico, which hasn't happened yet, but maybe that's coming. He has promised to, so maybe that's coming. Anyway, the bottom line in all of this is, for you and I, how does this, what practical upshot is there? Well, it means that mineral resources are about to become more scarce and more expensive. So all the commodities that you normally would get at dirt cheap prices, copper, nickel, cobalt, tungsten, lithium, whatever, they're going to get a lot more expensive. because now the U.S. has to play police even more so in the Western Hemisphere than ever before. And we're going to be cut off from the countries that are controlled by China. So I said the other day that silver is going to have two markets now. There's going to be an Eastern silver market and then a Western silver market. The Eastern silver market will have its own supply, its own pricing. The Western silver market, that is America's, will have its own supply chain, which will suffer from all kinds of problems, and its own pricing, which will be sky high eventually. But the same thing's going to happen more and more with copper, with nickel, maybe not iron ore so much, but with other critical minerals like that. I already mentioned cobalt, but there's also antimony, which is critical in silver refining. And China has just put in place a ban or an export restriction on antimony, not just silver. So yeah, things are going to get very interesting. Could also be interesting for Australia, because Australia, of course, is a large exporter of a lot of critical mineral resources, in addition to coal, of course, but iron ore, etc. And what if China follows the U.S. rule book and just says, hey, we're going to invade Australia and arrest the prime minister? Is that the right term? I can't keep track. Sorry. Arrest all the Australian leaders because we accuse them of crimes, and then we, China, will run Australia to secure our supply of energy and coal and whatever else. Would that be okay with Trump? If China did that? Might make Australia more free, actually, come to think of it, because it's such a police state. It's worse than China. It's like, if Australia were run by China, that would be an increase in freedom compared to what Australia has become under its own rule. Not that I'm advocating a Chinese invasion of Australia, but it might be an improvement. So anyway, this is where we are, folks. The world is splitting, bifurcating, as I say, east versus west. And Trump is drawing the battle lines, marking the territory, saying, we, America, we're going to control everything in the Western Hemisphere, and we're going to do it by force. We're going to use our military. We're going to do whatever we have to do to control North and South America and Greenland and everything else in between. So that's the new Trump doctrine. So there you go. You could argue whether that's good or bad for America. It could be in America's interests, actually. Arguably some of these actions are in America's interest, but they are still nevertheless lawless, and there will be long-term consequences for America's lawlessness under Trump and what he's doing right now. So some things to think about. But thank you for listening. I'm Mike Adams here of Brighteon.com and Brighteon.ai. Check out all of our AI tools at Brighteon.ai. And you can follow my work at naturalnews.com as well. And thank you for listening. And God bless America. I mean, I want America back, is the reason I say that. I want America back because I feel like we've lost America. So let's hope we can get it back. And to do that, we have to bring back the rule of law. And so far, that's not happening. So we'll see where this goes. Take care.
Mother Nature provides.